our regular network.
Yeah, it's not, that's something I need to look into, whether or not we can run a bandwidth report. And again, that would be more a function of, you know, our wireless controller, which there is maybe some possibilities of doing that.
Let me give you another idea, just
Something we can look at.
to see if it's a way to get to what you're talking about. Could we, I don't know if like on our bills we get the amount of bandwidth used or whatever. Could we compare a bandwidth usage for May of 2012 and compare it to May of 2011, where we didn't have the kids on the network in 2011,
Yep.
and we do have them on 2012? Does that give you some gross indication of?
Well, it does. What I'm looking for is and I'm being quite frank with you, and I think everybody knows, I've had my doubts about BYOD. But I'm a school board member, and I need to make an educated decision now.
Yeah.
And I'm looking for data. I'm looking for data to support how much it's being used, if we can tell what it's being used for, any kind of data that I could look at to try to make a decision. Because I don't want to make a decision on something one person told me, or I want to look at data to try to determine that. When I went to the Barracuda site and looked at their interface, it seemed as though the way that they had it there was a wealth of data. But then to find out that the way we're set up, we cannot access that data. So it put me in a position where I'm looking at going, oh wow, we got this Barracuda 310.
Yep.
You can look at, we could look at all these things and see, what everybody's doing. Then after we talked in a couple of the meetings, it kind of came to light that we really don't have that. We are really unable to dice up any of this data. And that, from the point of view of trying to look at what is really going on, is kind of frustrating. And I guess it's probably more frustrating because the first thing I did was look at this Barracuda 310 and say, what an amazing device here. And frankly, expected in today's world. I mean, it's not, we don't go, oh my gosh, when somebody says they can figure out how old Phil is or something. I mean,
What you're talking about? We want money, isn't that question?
So,
Well, David, let me pose the idea that I just had. I know that you're interested in bandwidth. We don't really care about bandwidth as long as we have capacity. If we had a capacity issue, we would be concerned about bandwidth. But as a way to getting to making some comparisons, if BYOD did start in October,
15th or 17th.
so November was a full month,
Right.
or October was a partial month. Right. We could compare bandwidth usage November, December, January, February, March, April, May, this year to last year, and that will give you at least a gross indication of what's happening.
well, I agree that is an indicator. I guess
So if we wanted to do that, I think we could do that.
yeah, I just don't, I just see it as
And then the
a
other thing, if I
very
could,
rough.
Dave, the other thing is what we can do and what's reasonable to accomplish are two different things. The time investment in some things that he's saying, yes, we can do it. I'm not sure that I'm in a position where I'm going to make that his job.
Okay.
But I think an easy way with the bandwidth would be compare with and without BYOD, and let's see what it looks like.
And I'm not here to give you a task, obviously.
I know you're not.
I'm just trying to figure out, as a person who has to make a decision
Yep.
on this, what are the factors that I can look at? Not, a teacher saying I love it, or a teacher saying I hate it, or a kid saying I love it or I hate it. But what's the real data that I can look at to try to see how this is being used? And again, it seems as though having the type of data that the Barracuda would provide, if we had the right setup, would be excellent to try to bolster the case for BYOD, or maybe not. But you could show that, certain grades were using a lot of going to certain websites, and this was great, all this kind of stuff. But we don't have that, and I would take any data that I get, and I think the build comparison will give us the overall bandwidth. The overall bandwidth is, I guess, not an issue, because we have plenty of it, but
But it
we'll
will give
see.
you, but that's not what, I understand what you're
I
looking
know.
for. You're not looking for whether we're at capacity and we're gonna crash. You're looking at comparative. What's the usage compared to the usage? And the delta gives you some usage of the of the new variable, which would be
Yeah.
kids on the network.
Right. I'm really looking for a lot more, but I don't think we readily have it available.
We don't, but we
And that's what I'm trying to
we
be
can give you
clear
that.
about, is that whether this is readily available.
Yeah.
And
Fair enough.
the other question I want to get to is, you know, can we get there? Because I think it's valuable. I just want to review this, because if you've already answered it, I don't really, you know, want to go through it again.
Is the cost to the district different if the bandwidth increases?
No.
It's not.
We've got, so, Mike, the way it's set up right now is we've got the 3 schools are completely separate, you know, individual networks. And we actually have a small business account at each school. And, you know, we get, gosh, I mean, I can get you the exact numbers of what we get for upload, download. You know, at home right now, they might be up to like, you know, 10 megs for download. We're up over 50 plus, you know, for school. A lot of schools that used to have, you know, T1 lines, that was pretty popular. We actually had one in the other district I was in, and that was sort of, you know, the T1 line was dedicated for, you know, your bandwidth. Most schools are moving to doing, you know, a Comcast small business or Fios through Verizon, just because the speeds are incredible. And we're not sharing it, you know, it's not like we're sharing it with any neighbors. This is dedicated for, you know, for our traffic.
But
So-
to answer Mike's
Yeah.
question, in the old days when we had T1 lines,
Mhm.
we periodically would have to, I don't understand this, we'd have to open up the T1 line a little more.
Yeah,
And when we
absolutely.
did, we'd pay more.
You have to pay for that additional, you know, bandwidth, or, you know, move it from a 1T to a 3T. And I actually we did that one of the years I was there, and yeah, you had to pay. We went through Paytech, and actually I think hosted, we used Paytech at one time as well.
Yeah,
So
we
yeah, you have
dumped
to pay
that.
extra.
We did that for we
But-
dumped them for Comcast.
Yeah, I mean, right now, and one of the nice things is we pay for most of that service through E-rate funds, so we don't actually, you know, pay for that out of the technology budget, but it comes through that E-rate funding, so that's a bonus.
So the other question, and I know we talked about it a little bit, but going back to the theoretical person in the parking lot. I understand you could figure out which wireless node you were picking them up on. If there was data traffic, you could track it to that it's likely the data receiver closest to the parking lot. But that's all the information you'd be able to get from that person.
You know, again, I don't know how much you want me to go into
Don't go into the details of it. This is
what
a
I
hint.
can
Let
do
me
versus,
give
you
you a
know,
hint.
but,
Kills iPhone.
right. So, I was able to figure out, you know, a message that was sent from sort of as a little, you know, test scenario, where that device was, which access point it was closest to, and by triangulating,
Don't go into the details.
So-
how you did it.
anyways, I'm able to
So is this
pull quite a bit of
something-
information.
He did that, what he's saying is, we did do an experiment.
Yeah.
And what I found as a result of that experiment, when I set up my iPhone, which is on the guest network, that's how I access, when I named it, because the keyboard is so little, I didn't go do Phil's iPhone, I did Pill's iPhone, P-I-L-L-S.
So is this something that occurred since the meeting that we had? Because frankly,
Yes.
okay.
Yeah, it was about a week and a half
Yeah.
ago.
Okay. And frankly, I'd like to say, I wish that you would have told me this, because, you know, we went over this pretty thoroughly in the meeting. And, you know, that's what I have.
We've been following through on some of this stuff, because some of the questions, we want answers to ourselves.
Well, yeah, but I gotta say, you know, I'm here tonight asking this question based on the meeting and the last information that we had, which was,
Well, that was specific though to an email, if I remember correctly, which again, I think we have to, that's a completely different way of identifying. The question was, would we be able to identify that email if it was a threatening email that was sent? And that involves more of our Exchange server. And again, and this also gets to sort of bigger picture, we're in an SAU 15 domain. We have 2 other school districts that utilize that domain, and we have a shared email server. So that's through that Exchange server. So I'm not the only one administering that server. I've got 2 other technology directors as well. So we are, somewhat limited when we talk about scope of our network, changes that can be made. We have to remember we're not just talking about Hooksett. We've got 2 other school districts involved here that are in our domain.
when I was talking about the parking lot, I said email, and I said, or went to a website that was acceptable to the Barracuda and left a message there. that was
And one was
appropriate.
email related and one was the external website
Right.
function, not our internal network. And, I feel I answered the question honestly, and I said, no, I probably wouldn't be able to.
So what you're saying is if someone got on our network, went to an accepted website, you would not be able to find that traffic.
Well, if they went to an accepted website, however, if they posted a threatening message on that website, would I be able to find out? But that's a completely different, question. And again,
That's
it
why I
has
asked.
more to do with the functionality of that website and how they track users, how they track, do they record IP addresses of, that could then be traced back to our network. But that's sort of outside of,
But you can't
scope.
hear. And forgive me, but,
No.
I guess we're not technical people.
That's
So,
okay.
I mean,
And again, I'm trying to be as honest as I can. When you ask me a question, I'm going to answer it honestly. So, what we can do and what we can't do. And I'm not going to say I can't do something that is a function outside of our capabilities.
Right.
Can I take that a step forward, because I'm
Yeah.
learning here too.
Yeah.
Let's take that question. If somebody went out to an external website, posted a threatening message, and your answer is, depends on the policies of that external website.
Somewhat.
But we wouldn't know if a threatening message had been posted unless somebody told us a threatening message had been posted, which means their policies would have to be able to track back.
Right. And we also have the issue of how do we know that it's that person that was actually writing that message versus somebody else?
With their device.
There's
yeah,
so
with-
many
with their-
variables
yeah,
in
with
different
their-
scenarios and I just can't
let
tell
me-
you I would be able to,
Let me clarify more of that, because this is what my intent was.
Mhm.
And say Phil got a call, and there's a police department or some other website,
Mhm.
and said, at 4:29, we received a message, and from the content of that message, it sounds like a hooked student. At 4:29, can you tell us, did you guys access our website? Now, from what I understand with the Barracuda, we could tell that, right? We could go into Barracuda and look up 429 and see that traffic went to that website, correct?
Yes.
So if we were alerted to something like that, my question was, then could we go back from there and figure out that it was the person in the parking lot or someone else that had done that, knowing what we were looking for, knowing that we were looking for something that
You
happened
want
in
to identify
that
the
street?
device, is what you're asking, aren't you?
I'm asking, can
At
we
4:29,
identify?
can we identify the device that did that?
Right.
And this is where I think there's a certain time period where, because of the way our network is set up, we don't have static IP addresses, so we don't use the same IP address for every device that comes on. So given a certain time frame,